Hello, hello.
Howdy.
I see a jumpy on screen. I'm intrigued.
Oh yeah, I just like to jump around. I do in fact like to jump around. We are pumpkin potage.
Yeah, we are officially ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, cool. Alright, I have eaten my pumpkin potage and I am at the entry point here.
But first, who are you?
Yes. I always forget that part to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Varin. My online tag is dragoR1n. I'm here to do Final Fantasy XIV Palace of the Dead 141 to 150 Dark Knight solo, and I'm joined by my very good friend, Mr. Demon Smalls. If you'd like to say hi.
Well, hello. Hi.
Hi. This is an MMORPG, and if you go on speedrun.com, there are a lot of different speedruns of this game, but in particular, I do really like the deep dungeon stuff, and this is something you play by yourself or with 4 people. I'm playing by myself because I'm a masochist, and I really like doing this by myself. And on tanks, it's a little bit harder than doing it on like a damage class, because you do a lot less damage. So we're just gonna go in here and have fun. We'll proceed to the next floor. I'm gonna ask if I'm ready. And you can start the timer in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Alright, I'll give a brief explanation of what Palace is. So this is a randomly procedurally generated dungeon within the game, separated into 10 floor sets. It also uses a different leveling system than the other areas in the game. This late into Palace, you're always going to be at the max level for Palace, 60. And we're trying to kill a set number of mobs per floor to open the path to the next floor. The mobs that appear on a floor set are fixed. They're mobs that will aggro on different things. Things like sound aggro, where if you run by them, they'll aggro on you. Ooh!
I love that. That's really fun.
What can
they
do?
immediately cast Charybdis, and that's kind of cool because I lost my other backup save, so that's really fun because you also can't enter back in on the floors that you have you failed on. So when the party count is at 0, so that's really cool. I actually probably should have popped a Pomander of Raising because I aggroed both of those and they were gonna cast Charybdis. So that's really cool. Thumbs up emoji. That is entirely my bad. What do we want to see instead? Do we want to just go back in and see how far we can get in an hour? What do we want? So I lost my other save on 120. I unfortunately lost at like 118. I got one shot hit by a mining trap, and so that's really cool. Yeah, totally up to whatever the peeps in charge want to do. That is that's really awkward. That's very, very awkward. Not gonna lie, it's very awkward. Cool. Cool. We'll do that then.
Alright, so scrap what?
Yeah, so I think what we'll probably do is let's just see how far you get. How's that sound?
We'll do 50. We'll do from 50, yeah.
That's a good call.
Let's do fixed party. Party. Inner loan. Let's do 51. Let's show off the cool stuff.
Alright, so starting at 51 would make this file not eligible for the titles for soloing, Lonely Explorer and Necromancer, but you do start at level 60 this way, rather than having to do all the boring leveling floors. So, rather than talking about the mobs on 140 to 150, the mobs on 51 to 60 are generally considered kind of easy. This floor set is used primarily for leveling jobs. Anyone who's played 14 has probably done some amount of leveling jobs from 0 to 60 in these very floors of Palace. It's relatively easy to mass pull stuff here and just AoE it down, as long as you have some way of having defensive stats. Be that a a sustaining potion, which is a unique item to Palace that recovers your HP very quickly, or a Commander of Steel, or a tank invulnerability, which we just saw RN use there. And in this case, Dark Knight's Invuln also will allow them to kill the full very quickly. So, pretty good stuff for trashing down a bunch of mobs like this.
Each floor set has a certain amount of enemies you need to kill to open the door. So if you look on my map on the screen up here, which is a little bit so it's a little easier to see, I have a map in the upper right-hand corner here, and there is a leave icon, and then there is a key icon. The key icon is the door to leave each floor, and it will be in any of these rooms randomly. As we said earlier, these are all randomly generated. The leave icon is the Cairn of Return, which we'll never use because, well, we're playing solo. If we die, you saw a couple minutes ago, you just die. Unless you have a Pomander of Raising, which I probably should have popped. Hindsight's 2020, baby. Each of the floors sometimes will have like buffs and debuffs. So like you just saw haste granted on the screen there, and I have weapon recast and cast time is cranked. So now when I cast spells, or I have any spells, or if I do weapon skills, they go a little faster now, which is pretty cool.
Fun fact, you do have spells. Your AoE and your ranged attack both count as spells.
They are spells. I don't play Dark Knight and Dungeons very often, so I kind of forget that the AoE is a spell.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons. Ooh, a landmine. Okay, so now I get to talk about traps. Within Palace of the Dead, there are multiple types of traps you can find. Some of them will just explode, like that landmine trap. Some of them will turn you into a frog, or in the other deep dungeons, a kappa, or I don't remember the one in EO turns you into. Sometimes they will just summon a bunch of enemies. That's called the luring trap. Those are really scary. There's also...
It randomly summons enemies. You have no idea what it's going to summon. It's just going to summon enemies from that floor set.
From that floor set, yep. And also they will immediately aggro onto you. That's the real threatening part. Am I missing any important traps? Oh, there's debilitating traps, which
yeah, you're silent.
Yeah, they basically silence you, prevent you from using weapon skills or spells. And then there's the enervation traps, which weaken you, which that's annoying but not terrible. So another thing that's relevant, not so much in these lower floors here, but there is a time limit on each 10 floor set. You have 1 hour to clear 10 floors, which might not sound that bad, but well, there's an impeding trap, so now we're silenced and pacified. But that 1 hour time limit, once you get to the higher floors, can be quite difficult as enemies start to gain very large health pools, and you have to be more specific in how you're pulling enemies. You're not going to pull 5 or 6 things at once anymore. You're going to be wanting to pull one mob out of a pack, solo it down, and repeat. While, as I mentioned earlier, you have to kill a set number of enemies per floor, and you don't know what that number is. It's generally 3 to 6, but that word generally is doing a lot of work in that sense. Another thing about traps, for newer Deep Dungeon players, generally they do not spawn directly next to walls of rooms. So you'll see often VARN is avoiding like the open space in the center of a room, choosing to kite around the walls. That's to attempt to avoid traps. They can spawn on the walls, but it's just less likely.
Very, very, very rarely. I think I've seen traps spawn within the 1 pixel of the wall a small handful of times, and I probably have like, I want to say like 500 or 600 hours in Palace alone. I think this character has, I think I finally hit the 5,000 hour mark a couple weeks ago, and I'm pretty confident in when I say that this, like, I've probably spent 500 or 600 of those hours in Palace of the Dead by itself, like just playing with different classes and trying to get to 200, because as you can see, I'm wearing the Lonely Explorer title and not Necromancer, because The 180 boss is a fun boss, and I've lost many runs there.
Yeah. So, yeah, the two main things that Solo Palace is done for. One, I mean, I guess there's three, right? Achievement. Not a lot of people have, like, cleared the 200th floor, even in 4-man parties, much less solo. And you can just check that by looking at achievement tracking websites or whatever. But if you clear 1 to 100 on a single file with no deaths, solo, you gain the title Lonely Explorer. And if you clear 1 to 200 on a single file with no deaths, you obtain the title The Necromancer, which is considered to be a pretty big flex in the 14 community.
It is a big flex. I love seeing free trial sprouts with the Necromancer title.
Yeah, that's always a good mode, a good mood.
I love that. Like,
So-
you have a sprout icon, and you also have the check notes Necromancer title?
Yeah. One thing that I guess I can talk about, unlike most other full-on roguelikes, you can bring things into Palace of the Dead. Those sustaining potions I mentioned earlier can be carried from one run to the next. They're actually bought with Palace of the Dead currency. Also, you can bring in just regular healing potions, which generally don't have a lot of use in Final Fantasy XIV, but they carry their weight pretty well in solo deep dungeons. Also, food, which the offensive stats from food aren't terribly noticeable inside of deep dungeons, but the bonus vitality and the bonus HP you get from that vitality very much is. I believe any food from like the Stormblood patches, so anything from like 4.3, 4.4 on, will cap your vitality in here, but generally it's just easiest to use whatever the cheapest vit food you can find is, which is often going to be current tier raid food, or last expansion raid food. If you can still get like smoked chicken for cheap, like that's really good.
I ate a pumpkin potage.
That's food that's like a year and a half old.
Yeah. Okay, it wasn't made a year and a half ago, but it was the current food a year and a half ago. Let me make it very clear, my character is not eating stale, gross, moldy food. Alright, we're gonna keep this full of a bunch of stuff. Because these floors, I honestly normally don't even hide against the walls, but I'm a little shook from metaphorically showing my whole characters behind by walking into 141 and then getting a one-shot with Cryptus, which is very fun. We're just here. We're having a good time. Nobody has control of the category name. They should just call it "Having a Good Time in Palace."
Oh, we've already changed it to Palace of the Dead 1 hour whoops percent.
You know what? That is a good
that.
one.
So fun fact. I had one file set at. I beat the 140 boss already at 141. I accidentally loaded that file one night when I meant to load my backup file, and when you commence into it and then if you leave, it counts as a death, and it was no longer at 141. So I was like, okay, well now I have to build up another file. So I was in the middle of building up a second file while I had the one I just died on was at like 110, or I think I left it at like 120, and it was or something lower than that, and I was trying to build it up to 120 to use it as a warm-up for today. And then I went and loaded into the 140 file, and I went, oh no! And so I had to build it up, and then I think I died on that one in like 118 or 119. I pulled a bunch of enemies and was going to use my invuln, and I went to step on a landmine trap so I could like knock all their HPs down. And I went to use my invuln, but I used my invuln macro, and it didn't actually set my invuln off, and I died. And I sat there for a second, and was like, oh, I wonder who that's for. Could not be me. Could definitely not be me. Oh, I'm a Froge. Hello.
Congratulations on being a frog.
Congratulations.
So, on the topic of landmines, since we didn't like fully go over that, you mentioned it. the way landmine traps work is they deal, I believe it's like 80% of your current HP, or your max HP in damage to you.
Yeah.
That applies to everything it hits, though. It's not just you. So a pretty common strategy in the higher floors is to pull 2 or 3 mobs onto a known landmine trap, and then use that as a way to deal substantial amounts of damage, cutting down that large amount of health they're going to have. So.
It also makes it pretty fast to just whittle a bunch of them down very quickly, especially if you hit like a landmine trap on them, and if you're like a DPS class of the sort, you use Pomander of Witching, which we don't have on the screen here, but what a Pomander of Witching does is it transforms everything around it into basically little enemies and imps and things that cannot attack you. They basically just have like a very soft auto attack that will hit you for it's like 30 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, it's like 25, 30 seconds.
25 or 30 seconds. It's somewhere in that ballpark. It's a very short amount of time, but it's just enough for you to usually like whittle them down the rest of the way with your AoE attack after you've set them on a detonation trap. Also, Pomanders. I don't think we talked about Pomanders really.
Yeah, I was getting ready to, and then we exploded. So, Pomanders are a unique resource to Palace of the Dead. They are exclusively found in the gold chests you will find around the Palace of the Dead. What they are one-time consumable items. We can carry up to 3 of each variety of them. Some of them do not start to spawn until the later floors. The 2 big ones that really matter for solo play are Strength and Steel. Steel gives you a 30% vulnerability down, which just a 30% tank mitigation effectively. And that lasts for 8 minutes, which is pretty huge. There's also the Pomander of Strength, which increases your damage and your healing throughput by 30% for about 8 minutes. Interestingly enough, the Strength Pomanders are generally less important than Steels in solo runs, because you are much less likely to die if things just do 30% less damage to you. Whereas a Strength Pomander will then be used to effectively extend the value of that Steel Pomander by letting you kill stuff faster, letting you get more floors of use out of it. There are other Pomanders. There are things like Pomander of Sight, which will reveal all of the rooms on the current floor, as well as all of the traps on the current floor. There's Pomander of Safety, which will remove any traps on the floor. There's Witching, which we mentioned, which turns things into imps, mandragoras, and chickens. All of which have varyingly lowered amounts of attack damage. I think the kappas are like 40%, the chickens are 20, and the frogs are 10, I think. But I mean, they still kind of slap you, but it's substantially less than normal.
If you have a substantial amount of them, and they're all still doing autos, and your health is pretty low, yeah, you can still die.
Sure. There's also a Pomander of Raising, which we just received. What that will do is, for the remainder of the 10-floor set, you get 1 auto life. And that does not count against your 1 death allowed per solo run. Or, well, I guess your 0 death allowed. There are Pomander of Lust and Pomander of Rage, which change you into a creature. The Rage Pomander will turn you into a Manticore, which is relevant to mention specifically on this floor, due to the debuff we got. And the Pomander of Lust turns you into a Succubus with an AoE fire spell. The reason I brought up the Manticore specifically, XIV currently has a debuff case that implies that knockbacks do not exist to this floor. What the Manticore does is it's a special cooldown ability called, it might even be called Rage, I don't remember the name of it. But you swipe a claw in front of you, and whatever you're targeting, it's in melee range, goes flying and dies instantly. But that doesn't work if knockbacks cannot be executed. That works on everything but bosses in Palace. So here we hit a luring trap. It's spooky.
I still needed to open the door, I believe, so this game.
Yeah.
These enemies in these floors, I normally don't even start walking along the walls and respecting traps till I get to probably about 110, 120. Usually the first 100 floors.
It's not a super big deal, especially when you're on a tank.
When I'm playing on Dark Knight, I just don't care. It is the one I'm most comfortable on. I've made the most progress on. I've gotten to 180 on Machinist, and I just didn't kill it in time, which is very surprising because a lot of people, their first usually like Necromancer clays are on Machinist. I believe Machinist is still the most popular, right? Aside from Moonbane?
Yeah. Warrior's starting to get up there. The buffs a couple patches ago were a big deal.
Okay, that's true.
That was a good toting trap.
I literally was standing right next to it, and then I slapped the pixel over. And oh, the other thing about the game is the traps are not as wide as you think they are, but also your hitbox is literally a single pixel in the middle of your character's feet. So you could be standing right next to a trap, and you could look like you're nowhere near it, and then you step a little bit further, and then your pixel is now in the pixel that it needs to be in to trigger it, and you're now froze or blown up or whatever.
Or you summoned 8 enemies and you die.
Yeah.
It's a very common way to lose runs in High Flames.
I definitely respect traps on. Oh, you turned around right as. We're gonna take a long way around. We're just gonna avoid this guy. So a lot of these enemies, as Steven mentioned earlier, they have different ways that they aggro onto you. So this Soul Flare right here is a sight aggro, and their sight is basically like a what would you call, like a 45-degree conal, like
yeah, it's like a small cone in front of their face. Yeah, it goes out a ways, but
you can stand right next to an enemy that says it's a You can stand right next to an enemy that says it's a sight aggro, or like you just, I guess, infer that it's really a sight aggro, and you will never aggro it. But if you step a little too far to the left or the right, you will then instantly pull it. Yeah.
So this floor, we rolled abilities disabled. This is actually kind of spooky for tanks, because tanks don't have the damage to kill a very specific enemy type, which we haven't seen one yet. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah.
So tanks, and like really specifically just tanks, because Machinist will just kill Mimic if you pull one here. Gold chests, once you get above floor 40, can start having mimics in them. Mimics are very, very, very spooky. They do a lot of auto attack damage. They have a cast bar called Infatuation, which is really, really bad for you. It inflicts you with a status called the Accursed Pox, which requires you to either have 10 minutes where your natural HP regeneration is disabled, due to you taking a small dot. Yep, that's how it does it, is really small bleed. And your damage is decreased by 15%? Yeah, it's a fair bit. Okay, so cool. Our first boss, the Black Rider. These guys, you're just gonna do some AoEs. We're not gonna stand him. That's really all I have to say. If you stand in his line cleave that he puts out, it does percentage-based HP damage, and it hurts really bad. So just don't do that. The little bleed puddles he makes are a little bit scary, but you can mostly ignore those. It's this cleave, the circles he's making around the arena are the ones we really don't want to get hit by.
Really called my plunge back in, because knowing what I do, but I was like, I'm gonna plunge into this. What's really cool is for the Valdefnir attack, you take 0 damage, you don't get knocked back.
Correct.
This is one of my favorite bosses to play on Reaper, because the Reaper class has something called Arcane Crest, which nullifies up to a certain amount of damage with the shield on you. And if you are just didn't cast it, you just hit Arcane Crest and you just keep standing and passing. You don't have to leave.
Yep, you can do the same thing in Ninja. Ninja's a very popular solo class for speeds and score runs. His job's really good.
And what's really cool is when you do the gap closer animation for a plunge there, as you come back, you basically are stuck in the knockback position. You're just zoomed back to the boss, and it looks really silly. It's very funny.
As a big fan of plunging into the boss after stepping into the death wall of an arena, I understand that all too well.
I know you mentioned previously that you've done this on MWSF and even obviously Dark Knight now. What other classes do you like running solo on, if any?
Reaper mostly. Reaper, I've done Reaper, Black Mage, Machinist, and Dark Knight. I don't recommend it on Black Mage. It's very painful. It's so
I believe saying that you don't recommend doing it on Black Mage would be implying that any human being would recommend doing it on Black Mage. Black Mage is one of the worst jobs for solo Palace of the Dead. The other two deep dungeons, it's like okay. It's not great. It's okay.
It does a decent amount of damage, which makes it, you know.
Yeah, like you kill bosses fine. The problem is you have like no damage when you're going through floors because you're so reliant on Scathe.
Yeah.
In the later deep dungeons, once you have access to things like, you know, Sharp Cast, Triple Cast, Xenoglossies, like it's really good there, but it's not in Palace. And generally the only people that do Black Mage in Palace of the Dead have already cleared on most other jobs and are just trying to get a score on every job. The same thing is true of Astrologian. No matter how much you love playing Astro, no matter what things you've done in this game on Astro, unless you have substantial solo Palace of the Dead experience, please don't do that. The job does negative damage. It is so bad.
As we kill the Black Rider, can I have an update on what our time's looking like for our hangout session?
Our hangout session is reaching about 25 minutes out of 60.
We can do another 10 floor set because it usually takes me about 15-20 minutes for these early floor sets, but we're just kind of showing some
We're
stuff.
vibing.
We're having a great time. I'm never gonna live this down. Like
oh, believe me, you are so lucky I don't have a Twitter anymore. Because,
I mean, considering Demon's already dropped at least like 1 or 2 gentle stabs.
Oh,
it's very good. There's 2 reasons I invited Demon. One is because I used to never actually be interested in deep dungeon. I'm over here. I used to never be very interested in deep dungeon stuff, and I just did like raiding and high-end content, and you know, I was never very interested in this stuff. And then Demon was doing some runs about a year and a half ago at this point.
Yep, that was when I had 3 consecutive deaths on 186.
Yeah, and I was watching, and I just was so enamored with it. I was like, this looks like a lot of fun, I should do this. And I started, and I think I got my first solo clear. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, our time, and I was playing on Machinist. I actually unlocked the class to play solo Palace because Demon was like, this is the job I recommend for you to play. And I said, okay, so I went and unlocked it. I leveled it up enough to take it into Palace of the Dead. And I leveled up Machinist exclusively through Palace of the Dead up until I think level 70, and then I went into Boja. But
well, you can't gain levels past 60, so they must have done realize at some point.
Yeah. Wow, I'm a toad. That's cool. We gotta find the exit anyway, doesn't matter. But I had almost no Palace experience, and I basically read a guide and some videos that Demon sent me, and then I got to like, I think floor 60 or 70, and it was really late, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna gun it for 100. I got the shakies. Do you want to hang out? And so we got in a call together, and basically he's like soft coaching me through all the bosses, and was there as I'm like screaming, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, and he's just like, shut up and hit your buttons. And then I got my Lonely Explorer title, and I was like, yo, what is this? This is addicting, and I've been hooked ever since, honestly.
Palace, it's a really cool experience in this game.
It's
like solo deep dungeon is sick. It's got a really good community too. But the premier guide I would recommend to anybody would be Maggie's Palace guide.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie's also done guides for the other 2 deep dungeons. Very, very, very fantastic stuff. Highly recommend.
In a very indirect way, what happened at the beginning of this run is actually Demon's fault.
Sure, why not? Admittedly, there was a world where the first words out of my mouth were going to be, since you're only doing 10 floors, please pop one of your raisings. And I didn't say that, so I will eat that L. That is fine.
Thanks, man. I love you. Thanks for taking the L for the team.
Now, granted, you also should have known to press that raising.
I couldn't.
This
My
is equal
brain went, I
opportunity
need to
prize
go now. Because my PB for 141 to 150 is 38 minutes. So, and that's incredibly good for luck, incredibly good. Like, I only needed like 3 or 4 enemies to clear. I went in with full Palmanders. Like, I basically went in and just had a great time. And I was like, my average is about 48 minutes, 50 or so, and that's including the boss. Like, that's from start to, you know, the duty complete pops up on the screen. It's usually about 48 to 50 minutes. So I was like, I gotta go on it.
Especially
I gotta
mostly
go.
play tanks. Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually about 140 plus is when I start having to think about my timer and being like, oh yeah, I gotta book it, gotta like actually do stuff. And it just gets
Generally,
really
the first 100 floors are pretty. Once you've done them a couple times, they're pretty tame. You have to be aware of like the 2 or 3 spooky enemies, and just kind of know what your Palmanders do, and you'll. Palmander management is a big thing in later floors, but in the early floors, just kind of use whatever you want whenever you want to. It's not a big deal. My only recommendation would be that you keep lusts specifically for bosses. They're very good there.
Yeah, what Lust does is the transformation. When they pass Void Fire 2 on any enemy it hits, it automatically puts a vulnerability up, and it lasts for 2 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
2 minutes. I never look at the buff anymore because I'm just so used to doing it.
Same. I just know my rotation.
I have it just innately in my head, but it's 2 minutes, and it puts you can stack it up to 5 times, and you basically open a boss with it. So most bosses, you walk in, you pop a strength and a steel if you don't already have one running. You pop a sustaining potion, and you use Lust until Lust runs out.
Well, that depends on the job. If you're on a tank, you absolutely do that, because the potency on Void Fire 2 is quite high.
Yeah, I'm thinking from a tank perspective, which is what most of my runs are nowadays.
But yeah, on other DPS, there's going to be some fights where you're going to stay in Lust for the whole 45-second transformation, and others where you're going to click it off after you apply your 5th stack of the vulnerability. But each vulnerability stack is 10% increased damage to the boss, so 5 stacks is a 50% damage amp, which is pretty substantial, especially when, again, time is a factor. And in the case of some bosses, 180 comes to mind, you may be looking at a Hardened Rage in a couple of cases. So it's important that you rush the boss down at some point.
180.
Yep. And technically, that's not a Hardened Rage.
It is.
Healers and Red Mage can cheese it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, healers and Red Mage.
Yeah. Those jobs that I recommend. Totally. Another pro tip, while I said Astro is like really bad in here, that does not mean the other healers are good. Sage is like fine, actually, but like Sage doesn't have a lot of mobility, he's not a lot of slide cast windows, and White Mage just lacks abilities off the global cooldown, which really sucks. It's like, I mean, you're 60, so you have Tetra, but
yeah, you have such a grand one, but
it's not good. Good song.
The bronze chest. No, I don't listen to music, but I'm talking about, it's a max potion. As you can see, I have 2,286 of them. Alice gives you a lot of these potions. They're not very good. They're good for like, you know, you've popped a sustaining potion, and you need a little bit of help on top of that, because it doesn't share a cooldown, whereas like a lot of the potions in the game share cooldowns with each other. So if you use one, you can't use another kind. So you can't go and use a
Tincture of Strength.
Tincture of Strength, and then turn around and use a grade 7 Tincture of Strength or anything. They stack or anything like that. They have shared cooldowns. So all of the potions have like a shared cooldown. So if I hit this max potion, I couldn't use any of my other potions until that cooldown wears off.
Those cooldowns can be different timers too, which is really messy in the head.
Yeah, especially when it's the difference between normal quality and high quality.
Yep.
4.5 minutes versus 5 minutes, which, you know, you would think that 30 seconds doesn't matter, and that 30 seconds doesn't matter.
Yeah. Also, it's going to be lower potency effect.
Yeah.
Don't use normal quality potions. what's another big topic? Oh, I guess I could talk about rewards in Palace outside of achievements. So there's a cool chest sometimes called the Accursed Horde you can find. They have a random chance of spawning on any given floor. You have no real way of knowing unless you use a Commander Intuition, which will stay active until you either end that floor set or find a floor with one, and then it'll show a glowing ray of light where that horde is.
And it makes a like very happy like when you
Yeah,
find
like you win. Yeah. On higher floors, those can they'll give sacks that you can have opened outside of Palace. On the higher floors, 150 plus specifically, you can start getting some really expensive rewards.
By expensive, we mean if you were to sell it on the market board in the game, it's also a lot of field.
The big one is the mount from here, the Knight Pegasus. I think those still go for around 15 million gil or something. They're pretty standard. Cool looking mount. There's that, and also the items that trade for sustaining potions. The dragoR1n potsherds. Those can be traded for a mount, a couple of orchestrion rolls. There's some housing items you can buy if you've cleared floor 200. Just cool in-game stuff. The big reason to do this solo stuff is both for prestige and fun, and then also the titles. The titles are really why.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna be real. Like, I mean, yes, I do. I think to some degree I still probably would do this content without the title, but the title makes it entirely worth it. Like, I get to walk around and be like, hey, I'm wearing this title that says I really love doing the same thing over and over again and beating my head until I get it right.
So like all of the other grind titles in this game, got it. Shout out to Big Fish.
Oh, Big Fish. I'm so glad I don't like fishing in MMOs, could not be me.
I love fishing in this game. I do not love the fact that a fish is going to have a 2-minute window once every 3 weeks. Sometimes, maybe.
Not the
Ooh.
one, but if this
hey!
raw from one file Rezo would be great. Getting Rezos this low is really good.
Yeah, they're only really good.
Yeah,
so Commander Resolution.
120 bots?
Yeah. And the 100 boss.
That's why I said the 100 and 120.
Yeah. So the Commander of Resolution is the third transformation commander. Changes you into Karibu, the final boss of Lost City of Amdapor Heart. No. Amdapor Heart? No, Lost City of Amdapor Heart. I was right. And that gives you an ability called Heavenly Judge 2, which my Tactics Ogre friends will appreciate. Which is a large AoE with a 4-second cast time, I think. But it has the unique effect of killing undead enemies.
Yes, it is. It is specifically holy damage, well, light damage, I guess, really. But
it's also the only type that does that. You can't do that with like the White Mage spell Holy or something. It is just Heavenly Judge that does that, and it is very useful in the 100th floor boss against again Tactics Ogre fans, Nybeth Obdalord, who summons adds, and if you blast those adds after they die, they like leave their corpse behind. If you blast those corpses with resolution, they don't respawn. It's really good.
yeah,
Super useful for solo.
If you're not a tank, they hurt. They hurt a lot.
Yeah, they do. Ooh, no items.
Funnily
So-
enough, the strat for 100 boss Nybeth is literally you just stay in Lust the whole time, and you just burn the adds down, let them keep respawning, and just keep doing the damage, and then
Resolution to kill all the adds. Yep.
I'm gonna hop in really quickly because I've been informed that that Last Guardian Paint Trico bid war that I mentioned earlier, it actually closes once we have finished Whoops %. That means if you want to choose what color to paint Trico in Last Guardian, which is one of the cutest pets in existence, you have to donate tonight. Put your incentive towards the color of your choice, which is blue, green, purple, red, or rainbow. And then tomorrow morning we will see a very pretty painting of Trico. So !donate in chat will get you where you need to go to put that put that donation towards the incentive you want.
Big fan of that game and a big fan of the runner too. I have seen that run in many events, and painting Trico is always one of my favorite things. So you definitely should donate towards that. It's always a real treat to get to see a rainbow good boy.
I know you were mentioning grinding titles. I don't play 14 myself, but I'm staring at my Legendary Defender of Ascalon title from the original Guild Wars. You want to talk about masochism?
Oh.
There is actually a lot of there are a lot of titles in this game that are grind. They're also game locked. You want to talk about the person who now has all the achievements in game?
They no longer do. They no longer do. There were achievements added this patch they don't have yet.
Yeah,
but yes, there was someone recently, a Japanese player, who is the first player in the history of Final Fantasy XIV to have every achievement in the game. The big one there that's really stupid, a mostly depreciated piece of content in this game, still used for crafters and gatherers, but not much. It's called Leave Quests. They were a huge focus in 1.0, the game that no longer exists. The thing with those is you get 3 allowances to do them per day. Period. End of sentence. No more than 3. It caps out at 100. Which means, you know, after 33 1/3 days, if you haven't played, well, you've wasted leave quests. Well, there are 3 separate achievements in this game for 5,000 combat leave quests, 5,000 gathering leave quests, and 5,000 crafting leave quests. That is 15,000 leave quests. You get 3 allowances per day. Math shouldn't be that hard. Turns out that takes 5,000 days, which is 7 years.
Yes. It is extremely time gated. It's not even a want of wanting to just bust them all out very quickly. It is literally
you
you must wait that long.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, you don't have to do it every day. You could take some time off as long as you don't let your allowances cap, whatever. But yeah, it's really dumb. And then actually there's, strictly speaking, there's one for doing 100 temple leave quests, which require 10 allowances each. And there's ones for doing 100 of each of the GC guild leaves, which again, those cost 1 a day. So it's slightly more than 15,000 in reality. It's 16,030 or something, 16,300. But regardless, that number is just really big.
It is a very big number. My other favorite one that's it's mostly grindy and it doesn't really is the one for this piece of content.
Yes. Yeah, remember when I was talking about those little coffers you can find, the glowy light beams with commander's intuition? So, there's 2 interesting achievements related to this. One of them is obtained by finding 100 of them through sheer luck, by not using Commanders of Intuition. Admittedly, this has been scienced out. On the early floors of the first 2 deep dungeons, all of the possible spawns are known. So if you want 100, you just have to spend a couple hours just going in and checking these specific spots on every floor. Not that terrible, right? The other one, this was added when Eureka Orthos, the new deep dungeon, was added. There's an achievement for obtaining 20,000 pieces of the Accursed Hoard.
20,000.
20,000.
But
4 zeros.
It can be obtained even with the Commander of Intuition. You just need to discover them.
Interestingly, you don't even need to pick the item up. You just need to have it spawn.
But you need to find it.
20,000 is again just a really big number. Now, this also has been scienced out to a way to grind it pretty quickly. If you spend a couple hours a day for about a month doing it in the floor 51 to 60 of Heaven on High in a 4-person group, it's pretty quick, but
you mean 21 to 30?
No, you repeatedly chain die in a party. Because you don't have to bring the items out.
I see.
Yeah, it's really cheesy. So admittedly, and the title you get for it is dope. It's The Accursed. It's a great title.
That is, I kind of want it, but I also really love myself. So
yeah, it's like I don't like I could spend like 40 hours of my life doing other things. Like there are ultimate rates to Frog, man. I don't know, but yeah, if people want it, you can get it. I just I don't love myself quite that much. Nice floor, by the way.
Nice.
So, yeah, you can do some really stupid grind stuff in this game.
So I'll kind of really quickly one more time to mention we did have a $5 donation come in that says Rainbow Trico is a good boy Trico. So we do now have a rainbow donation center all activated. But I jumping ships to talking about cringing and loving themselves. So I played World of Warcraft for a brief time, and I was just traveling my dragon, minding my own business. And for those that know when I say the time lost proto drake spawned right in front of me. I tagged it and I got instant pretty much hate.
yeah, you become a splatter on the ground. Yeah.
So
that corpse run is annoying. Yeah.
Well, the fun part was just the whole. So how long did you camp for it? I didn't camp. It just spawned in front of me, and then I got a new mount.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's always fun. My favorite is winning. In this game, we don't have something that's quite as like campy, but my favorite is randomly getting the Odin spawn, just like being on a world to do some stuff, like a hunt train or just random stuff, and it's like Nick Flash for Odin, and I'm like, oh, Odin, hello, how's it going?
Odin's super cool because the last player who killed him, Odin will take their form the next time he spawns.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's super sweet. It keeps their name as well.
Yeah, it'll say their name as a title, I believe.
Yep.
Also, we're sitting at about 45 minutes, FYI.
Oh man, I'm about to do. I'm trying to take my time. I've been mentally napping, and I've been trying to take my time on this because these floors I usually can do in about 20 minutes. I've just kind of been dragging my feet, just talking because I mean, obviously I'm the last part of the night, so I'll probably just call it after this, and we'll just call it a Mimic. Let's go!
Oh, a Mimic! Yay! Okay, so these things are spooky. They have that really nasty AoE, does a zillion damage. I also have this cast called Infatuation that I mentioned. If you don't interject that, which only tanks and physical ranged have the ability to interject, you get a really nasty status that I mentioned earlier called the Accursed Pox. It's really bad. It gives you a really small bleed that lasts 10 minutes, but that bleed effectively disables your natural health regeneration, which is bad. Really, really bad. Also, it lowers your damage by like 10% for 10 minutes. It's really cool.
On the later floors, your damage is going to increase, but you need as much damage as possible.
Yep. And also, that can only be cured with a specific Pomander, which I don't think we have. Which is funny.
We do not have a cured. It goes right here, next between the Alteration and the Fortune we do.
So, we've just turned into a Succubus using the Pomander of Lust. We're now going to cast Void Fire 2. We're going to keep casting it over and over and over, over, over. So before we turned into a Succubus, we did not, I see. We should have used a Sustaining Potion. While you are a Succubus or any other transformation, you cannot use any items or abilities. So it's pretty important to toss some healing, but in this case, the boss doesn't do a lot of damage, so it doesn't matter too much. We're going to stay as the Succubus, because the Void Fire 2 cast does more damage than our general rotation. But as soon as it ends, we'll probably just swap back to Dark Knight and punch the thing. You can end this transformation early if needed, though.
Yeah, it never does enough damage. I used to always pop a sustaining before I did it here, if I did choose to do it on these later boards, but if it's free, like 100, I don't bother.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Sustaining potions are your light and solo runs.
Yeah, it's why I only have 200 of them right now, because I haven't been on a grind to go get them. Normally I'll just run lower floors to basically get a bunch of them, but I have been grinding these save files and not actually grinding, because you can only have 2 save files, so that's something that, when we were in the menus earlier, people might have noticed, you can only have 2 save files for Palace of the Dead going at any time, so if you need to delete one to be able to do any other thing with it, so if you want to re-enter a lower floor, or if you want to do, like, leveling runs to 51 to 60, you have to delete one. So while making these save files, I can't do anything else with them, so I can't go on lower floors to do runs, so I started with a little over 500 when I set up the 2. I was going to set up the 2 141 files, and that was after 3 failed 180 attempts, and I think I had 1,300 before that. Hey, he's dead.
Congratulations.
We didn't get to mention
I guess I'll... Yeah.
Yeah,
if he stands in those water puddles, he gets a haste buff. So you just gotta make sure he's not in those. Yeah.
And these rooms are also very pretty. Let me
I heard the screenshot.
Yeah, I hit not the hide UI button, but these rooms are very pretty.
I remembered I have hide UI.
Right now. I think we're good on hanging out, by the way. Sorry. These rooms are very pretty. Each of the rooms as you get later on, they transform into different boss arenas.
Yep. The 100 arena is actually one of the coolest rooms in the game. Not a lot of people see it, because not a lot of people take Palace seriously at all after being done with their leveling on 51 to 60. And if you have any friends, play Final Fantasy XIV. You also play Final Fantasy XIV. And you need something to do during the content drought before 7.0. Might I recommend rounding up 3 of your friends, going and taking Palace 1 to 200. It's really fun. It's not terribly difficult, as long as you know what chimeras do in the 190s. And that's, like, it's a fun way to spend time. You can get some cool items out of it. There's these weapons, the Kinna weapons, are great glamour. It's a cool experience. Definitely recommend it to people. And also, I mean, give solo a shot, too, if that's your cup of tea. It's a blast.
Yeah, where can everybody find y'all if they want to watch some awesomeness?
Oh Lord. Well, I don't stream on Twitch very often. I do stream my Palace attempts on twitch.tv/dragoR1n. I think the last VOD I have saved is I died on the 180 boss. So if you want to watch more cringe from me, you can go watch that. I'm also on Twitter under the tag. I don't really tweet. But if you're so inclined and you want to follow anybody and you're not already following Midwest Speed Fest, you should follow them, and you should also donate because cool cause and cool incentives that are coming up.
Yeah.
And if anyone needs to blame you for anything, Demon, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/DemonSmalls with a Z at the end. I will accept blame for just about anything. I'm perfectly fine with that. I also stream a lot of this crap game. It's great. I highly recommend Final Fantasy XIV to everyone. It's super good. There's also a free trial. Yeah, crazy.
And as of the last major patch, 6.5, growing light, sorry. It now does go up to level 70 and includes the Stormblood expansion. So there's 3 expansions for free 99. You can't do Ultimate, and you can't do Eureka, right? Or can you?
You can do Eureka. I just wish you luck without being able to use shout chat.
Yeah, you can't shout, and you can't do ultimates, but you can do almost anything else in this game. So
you can even do solo Palace of the Dead.
You can do solo Palace of the Dead. So you
can even do solo Heaven on High if you're so inclined.
You can now do Heaven on High. Yeah. So
second deep dungeon.
You could do
that
this
only
for
goes
free.
to 100. Yeah,
I
great.
for it, but you can do it for free. Yeah. But thanks to Midwest Speed Fest for having me. Yeah, that's all I got.
Alright, well, everybody give some GGs one more time for that awesome hangout run. That was honestly pretty awesome. I don't care what anyone says. I'm cool with it. But that being said, for some of us it's sleep percent, but not all of us. As a reminder, we are coming back at 8 a.m. tomorrow Central Time, so feel free to time zone math yourselves there. We're going to be starting with The Last Guardian by Sable Dragon Brook, followed by Custom Robo Battle Revolution, Cultic, and Devil May Cry. So you're going to want to definitely come back to this channel and watch. But in the interim, we are actually going to be heading to another one of our runners in Abby's corner. She's going to be running some Illbleed. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow we do actually have a bid war. It's going to be going for that particular game. And quite simply, it's do we want to see the good ending or the bad ending? That bid war will be opening up tomorrow, so you're going to want to check that out and ask some questions. See which run you want to see in that bid war, or put your donations towards. So again, Oscar424, I hope you all had a great night tonight. Stretch, hydrate, and enjoy some more speedrunning. Nighty-night, everybody.